Hi, this is Paul from PH Tutoring here. Just thought I'd make a quick video this Monday to talk about some advice for independent learning. A lot of you are now doing a lot more independent learning than you would have otherwise been doing. As a teacher before, I would always promote active learning with all my students, even if they were at school. I think it was nowadays there's a lot of pressure on schools, and a lot of teachers don't have the time they wish they did have to help the students. So I tried my best. I always try my best to try to provide tools to students to be able to learn on their own. And this is something that is an ethos I continue to do through as a private tutor. So let's go through some tips that I would suggest that I've developed over the years. A study timetable. So if you're at home studying, normally a school would be telling you when to go to what lesson, and they would ensure that you have enough lessons to get through the content, enough study time in the day that you're not too much that you're overloaded, and yet enough time to be able to cover the content. So that's now your job, because you're not at school necessarily. Even if you are, even when you are, or whatever, it's still a highly recommended thing. And for many of you, might continue to be homeschooled or to be studying at home. So a study timetable is recommended. That being said, what you could do, well, maybe in conjunction as well, or you could have a flexible study timetable whereby maybe one day you just feel like you're just exhausted, you don't feel up to it, and so you decide to break from your planned timetable. That's fine, as long as you hold yourself to account and you keep a record of what you've done and when you've done it, because otherwise you're going to beat yourself up later. You're going to feel guilty. You're not going to enjoy that break that you've decided to give yourself, and you won't feel rested for when you decide to study again. So there are some quite cool apps out here. I use it a lot to track, to make sure that I'm spending the necessary amount of time on the different aspects of my profession. So maybe I want to make sure I give myself enough time to study more A-level content or degree level content, and maybe I want to make sure I spend enough time on monitoring payments and advertising, whatever it might be. So I have various categories, so that I can divide that time. And I also use a sort of timetable as well, but I'm fairly flexible. So I think with these, you can track your study time and use a study timetable. You might find that after a little bit of time that it wasn't realistic, or maybe you could do more. And so you can always review and reflect on how your study is going, and be ready to change it, which is why it's important, I think, personally, to map to sort of record your study time. Now, this does it very, very easily. As soon as you start, you click a button, it starts going. You focus completely on your revision or whatever you're doing. And when you finish, you press another button and it stops it. And you don't have to look at it periodically. When you want to look at it, you go back. So it's really, 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 really good for that. Yeah. Of course, the other thing about it is that if you do get distracted and go, I'm just going to look at YouTube for a little bit, that's fine again. Just stop your timer. And then when you decide to start it again, you start your timer again. That way, whatever rest you decide to give yourself, you give it guilt-free. Okay, next thing is, if you do any assessments that you do, whether they be quizzes or big tests or whatever, medium-sized tests, anything you do online yourself or whatever it might be, I would suggest you keep any records you can of these assessments, paper copies or whatever it is. Maybe you can keep a spreadsheet or something to record what you did, what score you got, what was the topics on, and stuff like this. And then study them. What did you lose the marks on? In terms of what topics are you struggling with, according to the tests, what topics are you struggling with? And also, what kinds of questions do you struggle with? And then the third category, so there are three categories. So 1, what are the topics? 2, what kinds of questions is it? And 3, what are the general reasons do you lose marks on assessments? Maybe you run out of time. Maybe you don't manage your time as effectively as you could. Or maybe you misread a question. Maybe you misread your calculator. maybe you miss a question entirely. All these reasons are very, very common, but you just need to identify which ones are you, which ones do you tend to do, and know yourself in that respect, and then you will know how to treat it. If you're preparing for an exam, which most of you will be, download your specification. Do you even know your exam board? And if you do, find the specification for that particular subject or for those subjects, download them, and then you can see what is going to be in your exam. The specification will tell you everything that you are being assessed on for when you finally do the exam. And then once you look at that specification, you can actually cross-reference it with your assessments. So when you say, I've lost a mark on these kind of topics, well, what aspect of the specification is that? And you could use that to refer back to it. That way you can use a specification to produce a topic checklist. And this is what your teachers would normally do. There are good and there are bad topic checklists. If you've got the specification, you'll be able to make your own topic checklist or cross-reference the one you've been given. Or if you don't understand the one you've been given, again, use the specification. The specification is the golden sort of handbook for your exam. So find it, and it will tell you everything you need. Find any past papers. They're online, they're all free, apart from the latest. They usually reserve the latest so as the school can give their students an exam conditioned mock paper. But pretty much every other paper will be available to you for free on the exam websites. So the examining board websites, AQA, OCR, Pearson, Edexcel, WJEC, there's Cambridge, there's lots of, they all have their own free past papers and mark schemes, and you can find the grade boundaries. In other words, these are past papers that were sat by people, and you can find out. You can do the paper in exam conditions, time yourself, and then find out what grade you would have got. Also, by the way, don't do them just for your examining board. Do them for all of them. There's not going to be a great deal of difference. And if you know your specification by this point, then if you do come across a question that you think, I don't think I need to know that for this for my examining board, then you you can obviously ignore that. Another reason to do other examining board exam papers is you may not have that many to use of your own examining board. So a lot of the exams nowadays, well, all GCSEs nowadays are brand new, and so the A-levels are fairly new as well. So you will only have a few exam papers. Some of you, I only have one. So you can use the other ones from the other papers, and then reserve the ones for your own specific examining board nearer the time. So next thing is just practice. So once you found exam papers, or maybe just exam questions from different websites, basically the best advice I would say is just practice with the exam papers, exam questions. Look at them, analyze it. Where did you lose the marks? Revise any topics you need to, or practice your math skills, and then repeat. That's the best way to do it. Now there are lots of different people respond to different. People revise differently in different situations. Use different methods. So some people are kinesthetic learners, which means they revise a lot better by walking about or making the revision somehow physical activity. That's fine. You can build that into it, but it comes back to this model of practicing the questions in exam conditions, analyzing them, revising, repeating the process. The revising bit, you could work out some kinesthetic way to do it, and I've got lots of ideas, so contact me if you need some ideas about different ways to revise for different learners. File your notes, so get organized, get a notebook for each subject and make it color coded. So, blue for maths, green for biology, orange for chemistry, whatever it is, and then use the same color codes with your tracker down here if you use one of those. So they're really my main points. Now, Obviously, I'm in the business of online tutoring, so you'll be unsurprised to hear that I have something that does all this itself. So, this is actually a tool which I used to use as a teacher. So this would be a revision tracker. My year 11s have gone for study leave, and they're going to now be in charge of their own learning. So I made this tool for them where they could monitor what subject they're learning, when did they start learning it, and when did they finish learning it, and then it would produce graphs for them to where they could see their progress and so on. As a tutor now, what I do is I provide these tools for my students where everything is in one place. So you could find different resources from my resource bank. You can then add them to your resources tab. You can see what homework is I might have set you, or you can set yourself some homework as well, obviously. And you can, any assessments you can put down in here, what topic were they on, what subject were they on, what score did you get. They can be linked to the questions, linked to the answers, linked to your attempt. And then you have this option for breaking the test down into the different questions. What did you get in that question? What was the question out of? What topic was the question on? A link to the question, a link to the answer. I also make little mini videos for how to do that particular question. And also you can make notes in it to say what was the question, what kind of question was it. And then there's the topic tab, which lets you break down all the different. This is directly from the specification, so you'd be able to see. You'd be able to get a link to that particular part of the specification and so on. So this does actually do all those things that I suggested, but whether or not you end up becoming a tutor of mine, or you just continue to do it yourself, all those things that I mentioned earlier on, I would recommend that to everybody, whether you're with me or with another tutor, or going it alone, or going to school. Do follow these advices. I do think it will really help. Thanks. Bye.